Hello, welcome to this week's Forex Outlook here at xm.com. My name is Rafi Boyajian, currency analyst, and here with me is our chief economist, Michalis Florenjadis. Michalis, it's been a rather volatile week. We had quite a lot of significant moves in major pairs. The week did start fairly risk-off mood, though now we're seeing quite a rebound in risk appetite as we head towards the end of the week. So what were the main moves and what were the drivers behind them?
Absolutely, Rafi. What you say is also backed by the fact that the Japanese yen was one of the few currencies that actually fell versus the US dollar. The US dollar itself was a little bit weak during the past few days. And as we didn't really have any important news out of Japan, I think it can be mostly attributed to positive risk appetite and the market buying some currencies that are generally related with more risky appetite. Now, the dollar also saw some selling because we had the news that there could be some fresh trade negotiations between China and the US at the United States initiative. So this was a positive, and we also had some, and this obviously the dollar is benefiting because of its safe haven status with things regarding trade. And also we had a little bit weak inflation numbers out of the US, nothing too major, but it wasn't no need for the Fed to rush to extra hikes. Having said all this, we had some of the best performers were the pound. Again, we had some positive news regarding, positive statements rather, regarding Brexit from the EU chief negotiator. And the euro was also up on, generally, I think maybe it was more the dollar's weakness because we did have the ECB meeting. There was a slight drop in the growth projections. There was more tapering of the asset purchase program, but nothing really out of script regarding the ECB. Also, the Aussie and the Kiwi rebounded from their lows. So, having said this, all this, Rafi, I think this is more or less the background. What do we have to look out for next week? I think we have some central bank meetings and some data releases.
That's right. We're going to have more central bank meetings. We're going to have Bank of Japan policy meeting. But like we saw this week with the ECB and the Bank of England, it's probably going to be a non-event. Last time, the Bank of Japan made some tweaks, so that they're not likely to make any changes this time around. We're also going to have Swiss National Bank policy meeting, and again, the Swiss National Bank we're not expecting any changes there either. We know that the SNB is closely following what the ECB does, so we're not going to see any change in the SNB rates before the ECB makes its own rate hike. But we're going to have quite a fair bit of data. We're going to have New Zealand GDP numbers for the second quarter. We saw, as you mentioned, we had a rebound in the Kiwi. The New Zealand economy hasn't been doing as well as the Australian one. It's actually, business confidence has been rather weak since those elections last September. So if we do see further weakness in GDP growth, we could potentially see the Kiwi heading back down again. We're going to have more UK data coming up next week in terms of inflation, retail sales. Canada is also going to be publishing those as well. But of course, with Canada, as we get to that October 1st deadline for the NAFTA talks, we could potentially see more headlines causing some large swings in the loonie. It's going to be rather quiet in the United States. It's mainly going to be manufacturing surveys and housing data. And in the Eurozone, we're going to have those all-important flash PMIs, which everyone is looking for some signs of stronger growth, given that since the start of the year, growth has pretty been fairly moderate.
And I think that having said this, we also have to watch out a little bit with what is happening in emerging markets. That is important for shaping risk sentiment. We did get a fairly sizable rate hike by the Central Bank of Turkey this week, which managed to push away some short sellers away from the Turkish lira, and this boosted sentiment in other emerging markets as well. So I think maybe what is happening in emerging markets plus some trade, and in addition, what the things that you have said, all these scheduled central bank meetings and data, I think will be important for next week. Thank you very much for your input, Rafi. Thank you everyone for watching, and have a great day.